Welcome to FitBody Lifestyle, the show where we dive deep into the world of fitness, health, business, relationships, and the art of living a balanced life. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Greg, and we're here to give you the benefit of our experiences in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, the corporate world, running a business, personal development, and building healthy relationships.
Whether you're sweating it out in the gym, hustling in your business, or seeking balance in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
So lace up those sneakers and grab that water bottle, and let's get ready to transform our minds, our bodies, and our lives.
Welcome back to another episode of FitBody Lifestyle, where I'm here with my incredible co-host here, who is got his phone out and he's scrolling.
Yep. Sorry. Instagram is like a gravitational pull, man. It's like
Nicole says, it's a scroll hole.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
And we are here with our special guest today, Thais Cappelli.
Yes.
Am I saying it right?
Yes, Cappelli.
I noticed how you guys are both putting an Italian accent.
Cappelli.
Yeah, well, it is Italian.
Well,
It is, but you're Brazilian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good.
So let's start out by having you give us your check-in word.
My check-in word is grateful. Yeah, I'm grateful. I mean, this weekend was so good too. Like having the athlete summit.
Yeah.
It was the first time that I went to like a FitBody Fusion event as a coach. So that was really exciting. And then getting to know the other coaches was really nice too, because a lot of them I've never met in person before. So we were able to connect and create really meaningful friendships. This is like the best work environment I've ever had in my life.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
That
for
makes us
sure.
happy.
And we're grateful to have you here today. And I'm so excited for you to share, about your journey. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people will gain a lot of knowledge and inspiration from your journey. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, my journey is definitely a long one. Very, colorful, I guess, a lot.
Yes. Well, Brazilians are colorful, right?
Yes, we are, for sure.
Very animated. So we want to today get into who is Thais and your backstory. But while we're on that topic, since we did just finish the Athlete Summit and the Coaches Day, and this was your first experience with it, those people who are watching may or may not know that every year we do a Coaches Day and an Athlete Summit to connect with our athletes, to connect with our coaches. The connection is the theme of the event, and we provide education, hopefully some topics that go beyond posing. This year we covered a lot of stuff about biomechanics and proper execution of exercises. We covered some nutrition. We covered some stuff on blood work and labs and the importance of health. We had great presentations from various vendors. And I just would like you to give maybe your recap of that in terms of what it meant for you, how it felt. I know you gave a little bit, but while we're on that topic, why don't you just follow through and give us all of it?
Yeah, so I was particularly excited to come because last year when I went to the Athlete Summit, it was right after I did my physical assessment with you and Drew. And it completely changed. Do you remember that? Sandy, I saw Sandy, she gave feedback, she was there. And then we changed the show schedule that I was gonna do because I was aiming for North Americans.
Yep.
And I finished my prep even before North Americans happened. And I turned pro. It was such a good thing. So I was like, well, I have a lot of good expectations for this one now because now I'm a coach. And, being Brazilian and being a first generation immigrant, for me, the biggest, I really wanted to join FitBody Fusion when I told you as a coach, because I lack, family feeling. That feeling of family for me has been lacking since I've been in the US. And I was able to find that with FitBody Fusion. And I was as a client looking, I was like, oh my God, I really want to be part of that. I need that, I need that feeling of support and community. And I when I joined FitBody Fusion, I already, saw this, I already felt that right away. And then with, doing all the coaches, what are the exercises we did? The team
building exercises. Yes.
That was amazing, how we all opened up, and then to see everybody getting vulnerable. I was I even said that. I was like, wow, I'm not crazy, because I always thought something was wrong with me. I'm the only one that goes to struggle. And I think a lot of people see IFBB pros thriving. Oh, like you get ready in 8 weeks. Like, how do you shred so fast? How do you, handle all that? And then we don't see the other end of things, So to me, with other coaches and other IFBB pros, and see that like I'm not the only ones that struggle with my mental health and my personal life, made me feel more alive, more normal, more like, it's okay to not be perfect. Nobody is perfect. And it made me feel so like cherished and, whole, basically. So it was
you're
really,
making me-
it
That's so
was,
good.
it
You're
was
making me
really,
tear
it
up.
was so meaningful. Yeah, it was so meaningful. Like I'm a very lonely person, with my journey, because I've been moving so much. I mean,
Okay, so Thais, I know where you're going. Let's hold on that. So,
Okay.
okay, because that I don't want to get to the end of the story.
Yeah.
Let's start with the beginning of the story. Before you do that, I do want to say that the exercise that you're talking about, I'm not going to tell people what the content of it was, but the concept of it was that we had all of our coaches connect this year by sharing their word for 2024, and then their word for intention for 2025. And if you have not done that process with your friends or family, I really encourage you to do so. Some people do it, like a couple of our coaches said, I do this every year where I come up with my theme word for the year. And so some people were already prepared. Other people were doing it in the moment. But through that process, we got to learn a little bit more about each other. We got to be able to connect and discover what I think everybody always forgets is we have much more things in common than we do different.
Yes,
And
for
only
sure.
through vulnerability and the expression of that do we ever get to connect with those things. Because if you're feeling something and you're holding it inside because you're thinking nobody else feels this way, it's always amazing to me that when you do ultimately share it, it's like, oh, I feel that way too, or I
Yes.
feel that way too, or I feel that way too.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get over that hump of, do I share this or do I not? And I don't think that is what we got out of that
Yes.
experience and that exercise. So thank you for bringing
Yeah.
that up.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the vulnerability and then setting the intention.
Yeah.
And I applied that to my own coaching with my clients, because I was like, I want to be the coach that I want for myself, and you're my big role model. So,
Thank you. That means a lot. And that was always my
Yeah.
intent when I started coaching. I want to be the coach that I wish I would have
Yeah.
had. That means a lot.
Yeah. So I was, and that's something that I always tell people. I'm like, I want to be that coach that as a woman, not only as a woman, but as a female athlete, like I want to feel for myself. So I even have a client, and she was like, oh, I really want you to coach me because I have PTSD. And I know you have it too. And so if I didn't open up to that, she wouldn't come to me and we wouldn't have such good connection together, because, having PTSD is definitely something that is hard to understand if you don't get it, if you don't have it. So, so those are like how I connect with my clients a lot, is me being vulnerable first. And I also, see myself as a coach, I'm a leader. I'm going to do that so that my clients feel comfortable doing it to me, and then we can do a much better work together.
Well, and I think I said this I did say this at the event, is that every leader is a coach, but not every coach is a leader.
Yes.
And I do think that, you are embraced of that, and that our philosophy is that we provide leadership training to our coaches for that exact purpose, because we want our coaches to not just coach, we want them to lead. And it's different from leading an individual. The way I think of leadership is it's just a broader topic. It's a broader impact and a broader influence. Do you want to, I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot. Do you want to share your 2024 word and your 2025 word? It's up to you whether you do.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. My 2024 word was wavy. And basically because I, had a really good time with growing as an athlete, as a coach. It was amazing. Like my career skyrocketed last year. But then, during my off season, when prep was over, we go into off season, I was like, I'm going to reverse perfectly. And I did. But then I had to deal with my PTSD. And so it was like, ooh, and then down again. And then I had to pick myself back up. So it was definitely a wave. And then for 2025, my word is stability, because it's something I have been lacking in my life, and I'm going to talk a little bit about with how I have, been kind of raising myself in the US since I'm 16. I definitely have been lacking stability, and I want to find that this year, and especially stability within my mental health. And now my big challenge is to do that while navigating through this diagnosis that I recently got of PTSD. I mean, it kind of like took me, when I was first diagnosed, I was like, what? Like, are you sure that's what I have? Like, I never thought that would have been me. So now, I'm having to kind of learn how to navigate my life with that, with the nightmares that come and go. Because I don't think that there's no cure. We just learn how to live with it in the best way we can. So that I want stability with my mental health. I want stability in my career, my finances. And then I really want to this year, like, focus more on the smaller things, in life, and just cherish those instead of wanting everything so big, so that, we can be more stable.
Those are great. And thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Sorry to put you on the spot because she didn't know I was
I'm
going to ask that.
I'm an open book.
and that's one of the many things that we love about you is that you're very vulnerable. You're very authentic. You are who you are. There's no, I can assure everybody that's watching this that the Thais that you're about to see or that you're seeing now is no different than the Thais 24/7. She's Thais 24/7. And there's no difference in what she does when she's off camera, on prep, off prep. She's always her.
And we love that about
Yeah.
you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited to kind of dig in and start from the beginning. So where would you like to start? Because I know wherever I start, you're going to go, let's
No,
back it
I'm
up a little
not.
bit.
So this is your opportunity to see how much you've grown in the interviewing space. So
Wow.
so
Thank you so much. Oh my God.
Now he's putting you in the spot.
Fired.
And if I disagree, I'll tell you.
Oh, of
but-
course you will. Well, I mean, tell us a little bit. Okay, you already mentioned that you were 16 when you came to the States. So tell us a little bit about, you immigrating here and what that was like for you. And, let's start there.
So I had a really troubled youth. I was a horrible teenager, like awful. I got involved with bad people at a young age. I grew up in an interesting household.
And where in Brazil?
I grew up in Campinas, which
Okay.
is São Paulo state. So it's a big city. It's about 2.5 million people. And I love it there. But my family had their own issues, and I inherited a lot of their trauma. So, and when I think I was 7, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And I mean, being diagnosed with ADHD in the 90s was traumatizing, okay? Because it was just loads of Ritalin and people telling you that you're smart but lazy. So I grew up having to feeling like I have to prove myself, and I still have that issue, today. Like, I'm always wanting to prove myself, especially to the people that I care about. I want to show them that I am capable, because I felt like growing up, my parents were always doubting me. So how does that relate to me immigrating here, right? So when I was 16, about 15, that's when my mom started getting the internship ready for me. She said, we want to send you to the US for a year so you can learn English. And she tells me that's not the case, but I swear, I'm pretty sure it was kind of like, well, at least if she speaks English, she will be something in the future, because I think they had really low expectations for me growing up. I mean, I was really bad in school. Like, I could not thrive. I couldn't sit still.
Well, if you have ADHD, I mean, that's
I honestly feel like a big part of it was the environment I was in wasn't helping me to thrive. So I felt like I had to get attention because I wasn't being given the attention that I wanted. I started drinking alcohol when I was like 12.
Wow.
I've been drunk in school and stuff. Like I was not a good kid.
Were you self-medicating? Is that
I think I was mostly doing it for attention.
Okay.
Yeah. but not like thinking, oh, I'm doing it for attention.
Yeah. Of
But
course, in retrospect, you realize.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, kids do that. Like they act up because they want, that's the only way they got attention. That was the only way I got attention from my parents. My parents are both dentists. My whole family are very well successful. They're very successful people. I have a lot of dentists, a lot of CEOs, engineers, everybody in my family has a doctor's degree, a postdoctor. My brother's a lawyer. And then there was me. So that's how I always felt. I felt like I was the black sheep. So my mom said, we want to send you to the US so you can learn English. It was going to be a year internship. And I will never forget this. And I know my family didn't have the intention of traumatizing me, but I remember when everything was ready to go. I was about to go to the US. I found a family in Arizona, and it was 2010. We were having lunch at my grandma's house, and my mom said, well, so for her to stay there, she needs to have at least a B in all of her grades. Otherwise, she's going to be deported. And my grandma was like, oh, I'm going to give her 3 months. And that was so traumatizing. That's how I grew up. It was like people downing me my whole life. So I came to the US and I was like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And I thrived. My English was crap. Okay. It was really bad. And within 2 months, I was fluent.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was actually, by the end of that year, I did so well in school. I was one of the best students, just having learned English. And so the high school I went to offered to give me an extra year so I could finish high school, because I came in as a junior. So the principal of my schools, he said, I will sponsor you for you to finish your degree here. Because I also, lacking family over there, I really relied a lot on my teachers. I was with them a lot. I became, teacher assistant with my math teacher, and I hate math. And I just, really wanted to learn. So I got close to her. But it was rocky anyway. I had a hard time to adjust to the new culture. Within that year, my host family kicked me out and they said, oh, we're moving back to California and we can't take you with you. But that was not true. So then I went to live with a friend I met in high school. They kicked me out too. And then so the family that accepted me to come here to the US for the first time, they're like, oh, well, we ended up not moving, so we'll take you back. So I grew up always feeling like I'm just being thrown out into places, to get through. And so that comes into not having stability, how I grew up without much stability. And then, I ended up finishing my last year. I moved in with one of my teachers from high school. That's how close I got with my teachers. So I lived with her and it was great. I got a scholarship to go to college here in Arizona. I mean, my whole family was like, what? Who is this girl? And I told them, I was like, yeah, the environment really makes you or breaks you, So that's basically how I came to the US. That was 2010. Then I did my first year of college, and I have been the perfect student since. I graduated college with a perfect GPA, always on the principal's list, and literally nobody, thinking about me when I was 16, nobody would think that would have been me.
It just blows me away because I definitely don't have the gift of languages, and I cannot even imagine what that would be like to come to a new country where you don't speak the language, where the customs are very different, and then just to be thrown into the fire and have to be able to do that. So it says a lot about, your resilience, your dedication, your commitment, really, really impressive.
Yeah, I just wanted to be good for once, and make people proud.
Yeah. So what do you think was different about the environment that helped you thrive so much?
I think first, my family, I love them, but they were pressuring me in the wrong way. They weren't. My mom would compare me to my brother a lot, and that would bring me down. My brother was really smart, Me, I was more, I feel, and even today, like when I work in my work environment, I can't have that job where there's someone micromanaging me. Like, it's really overwhelming for me. Like, I do better when I am leading myself, when I am motivating myself, and I think that's why I'm so good at bodybuilding, because I don't have somebody in my ear all day, yelling at me. Like, that really overwhelms me. I'm a different, I'm neurodivergent. So my way of doing things is different than probably everybody else. I have a very specific way of doing prep, of studying, of learning. And I was able to find that because I didn't have anybody telling me, this is how you need to do. I was able to find my own way of doing it. And then I thrived.
I'm sure so many people can relate to that. I know that, for me, when I was growing up, I was, and of course I'm a little older, so we didn't have some of the diagnosis, but I couldn't stay in my seat. So I was constantly getting in trouble, things like that. And I have a feeling it was probably a little bit of that ADHD going on, but it's really interesting how, I feel like times are evolving and people are becoming more aware that not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody takes in information the same way. And, in a lot of cases, it could be holding somebody back that has incredible capabilities, talents, intelligence, because it shows up in different ways. So I love that you shared that. I can only imagine how many people can identify with, what you went through.
I think, especially in bodybuilding, because I think probably most bodybuilders have ADHD, like
or some kind of compulsive,
or like some sort of OCPD or something. Yeah, for sure. Like,
and not everybody. We're not diagnosing anybody. So just to be clear,
I definitely think a lot of people do. And now I think in bodybuilding, especially, a lot of people come from, high level athletes. Like, I've seen Michael Phelps. He struggled with depression and stuff, and I see a lot of that in athletes. Like, they grew up with the feeling of having to prove themselves and being high achievers. High achieving people usually are those people that come from a background where they have to work hard to make it up for something. And so, I definitely see that a lot in bodybuilding for sure.
It's an interesting phenomenon that, as you talk about, your childhood and that the diagnosis of ADHD, the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, these are helpful in order to allow you to get context for what's going on and how you're processing information. And it becomes not so helpful when it becomes identity or a label or a stigma.
Yes.
And I do think that ADHD is stigmatized. You were listening to that thing the other day with that lady that was a sociopath. I don't know if she was a psychologist or something, but
she was
a psychologist. And she was talking about sociopathy and how there should be a different label for it than sociopath, because sociopath is associated with, serial killers and everything.
Yeah.
And she's right. And that's not the only area. It's this other area that are, in order to be bigger than your diagnosis, you can't identify with the diagnosis. Because if that becomes your sole identity, I'm the PTSD person or I'm the ADHD person, well, that's not how you want to be known.
Yeah.
And that's not how I think anybody wants to be known. They want to be known as, I'm Thais, and I have this.
Right. Yeah. It's just a piece of the
puzzle. Right.
Exactly.
It's not.
And I also have others diagnosis.
She's all, we just got started.
I have the whole alphabet.
But the purpose of the diagnosis is really to allow you to understand a couple things. One is that, hey, once this shows up on the diagnostic realm, it means that you're not the only person that's got this.
Yes.
There are other people. And that's helpful to know that you're not alone. The other part that's helpful is that can be treatment and, okay, we know where you fit, and so we need to but it can be so detrimental when it becomes that label, that identity, that badge, or when, okay, within ADHD, the symptom complex is going to manifest differently for different people. And so your symptoms may be different than somebody else that has ADHD, but you both have ADHD. So you don't want to be pigeonholed or put into round peg, round hole, because you might be a square hole in the ADHD world. And what are the things that you need to really do to thrive? I think about you coming to the US and having to learn a language. And the thing that I'm sure prompted you to learn the language so quick? I'm not sure. I'm guessing, but I'm guessing the thing that helped you with the ADHD is well, first of all, you're in a new place where you don't speak the language, and so if you don't speak the language, it's a survival mindset. Like you were pushed into really using that big brain of yours, and we do know you have a big brain, but you were pushed into something where you had to focus, and that's why you thrive so much is because you were challenged, you were pushed to the limit, and you were able to rise to that. Whereas back in Brazil,
in a different way, in
right.
an environmental way, instead of
I'm
like
not
somebody
just sitting in the classroom being like dog,
right,
cachorro,
right,
cat, gato. Like it's I'm actually applying it. Yeah.
Right. And you, when you're put into that framework, this is not a judgment on the Brazilian school system or whatever school system were you in, but if you were doing a standard curriculum, that may not have been challenging enough for you. And we've seen that with other people. I mean, we saw that with our son, who's he's super smart, but when he was not challenged or pushed, he got bored.
Yes.
And when he got bored,
for sure. Yeah, that was my case for sure.
Yeah. Interested in changing your life or stepping on stage? Join FitBody Fusion today.
Experience the FitBody Fusion difference with tools, knowledge, and community support to reach your healthy and sustainable lifestyle.
We guide thousands on their fitness journeys, from seasoned athletes to those who are simply seeking a healthier life.
Our expert coaches provide personalized plans and unwavering support, empowering you to thrive.
FitBody Fusion is more than just training. It's a community. We understand the challenges of solo fitness journeys, which is why we foster a supportive environment where members encourage and motivate each other.
Join the FitBody Fusion community today and unlock your full potential.
Head to fitbodyfusion.com to sign up for a free consultation.
And do it today.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think, for me, like I went to school for psychology and then I worked as a counselor, did some social work and stuff before I became a coach. And I'm very like scientific to the book. I love science. And then I did, I worked a little bit in research at the University of Texas. I got an internship at the medical school department. And we did MRIs on like different brains of people that had bipolar disorder and stuff. So I really for me, when I get a diagnosis, I want to learn like how that changes my brain chemistry. Why, and it makes sense for me. Like, oh my God, the lack of dopamine makes me crave sugar. People that have ADHD, they have a lot of sugar cravings. I do. I love sweets. And so, so that's why for me, it just kind of makes me understand myself, but then apply into my life and how that makes, how that makes it for Thais, and how can I thrive with that?
And that's one of the big benefits of having the diagnosis is that, okay, now I understand why I think this way. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I do open up about it because of the stigma, right? Because sometimes when I go to my therapist's office and I see like a little kid just can't stop moving and the mom's like, can you just stop? I just want to be like, I used to be that kid and today I'm very successful. Just FYI. I want to show people that
there's a future.
This is not a barrier for me at all. It made me who I am, and I used it in a good way. I definitely think that the fact that I'm so hyper makes me a great athlete, so
you burn a lot more calories.
Right, exactly. Like for me, I don't have a hard time getting my steps. Like that.
I'm like, can you sit down for a second?
I remember. Yeah, last year you were like, can you just sit? Like we were gonna tell James to just strap you down. Yeah, I was like, Jamie, I'm getting 20,000 steps a day, and people are like, that's like what I get when I go to Disney World. Right. And I'm like, no, that's just me living my life.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely think that there is. It's used so much in like a negative way, but then you see successful people that have these barriers, and it's not really a barrier. It's just they learn how to use it.
Right.
You're finding how to use it.
Again, going back to this is we don't want to think of those people as that. You're not your condition.
Yes.
Your condition just affects how you process information, how your behaviors may be affected by it. It was we were sitting here talking about this, and I'm really glad we went down this road. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to kind of talk about this, because this is a very interesting topic. Is that we think about it when we're talking to athletes about how to cue them to make connection with a specific exercise, and everybody's a little bit different. One word for this person is going to be different. One word for for different person is going to be different. And I think
And
about
some people need tactile
That's right.
cueing versus visual cueing.
right.
And
Yes.
it just kind of depends on how that person takes in the information.
Exactly, and that's what knowing how you process information is helpful, because what we've talked about this before is there's 3 primary communication styles: kinesthetic, auditory, and visual. And if you know you're talking with one of those people or communicating with one of those people in one of those categories, knowing how they process information can help you be more effective. And it's no different than you in terms of what's the best way to communicate with you based on how you process information.
Yeah.
And that's really what we should be moving towards, in my opinion, is this is not about labeling people or stigmatizing people. It's more about how do I effectively communicate with these with this person so that so that they can understand me, so that I can understand them, so that we can connect. I mean, that's
connection.
really
Connection is the
Yeah.
key word. And that's something you've talked about has been very important to you, is to create connection in your life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like growing up with all of these issues, to me, the biggest thing was to deal with depression too. Because, with all of that, I grew up with, like, depression for me has been a big issue in my life since I was diagnosed with depression when I was 11.
Wow.
Yeah. I started taking Zoloft at 11 years old.
Wow.
Like, that's crazy, right? And I still struggle with it. I mean, you guys have seen me at probably the worst point of my life, and so bodybuilding, like, pretty much helped me a lot to get out of there, because bodybuilding filled up a hole in that I had, like, a missing piece. I was like, I was always doing things to make people proud. I want to make my parents proud. I want to prove people wrong. I want to prove that these diagnoses are not going to stop me from becoming who I want to be and achieving what I want to achieve. But I was doing everything for all these people and, not for me. Bodybuilding was something that I do for me. Like, I have so much passion for it, so much love. And it was when I really got into bodybuilding, like serious bodybuilding, like on my first wellness season, really was probably the first time that I was like, okay, I'm going to go really hard. And I thrived really well. It was when I realized that I was waking up for the first time and feeling like I have so much to live for. Because I grew up a lot, wondering, like, what is my purpose in life? I had a big struggle with identity, with purpose. Right. I can find motivation from any situation, but the purpose for me, like, what was my purpose in life, was probably the thing that caused me to really go into, like, a dark hole. And for my entire life, I've struggled with SI, which is, suicidal ideation, and bodybuilding.
Why don't you tell people a little bit what that means?
So I was diagnosed with depression when I was 11 because that was my first attempt, and my parents caught me, and so, which I'm glad that they did, and I'm glad I'm here.
And we're glad.
Yeah. So I always grew up with a sense of, like, no matter what I do, I'm never gonna be enough. So what is the purpose of my life? What am I doing here if I can't be enough? So. And then in bodybuilding, I found a place where I feel good enough. And I think with all of the struggles that I've had, I use that as a strength. It was the only place that I found strength from my struggles. Like, my story, my journey made me who I am today. It made me so resilient. It made me so, like, so stubborn and so goal-oriented that is why I thrive so much. So now, for the first time in my life, I understand the concept of everything happens for a reason. And I'm starting to find peace with my own trauma, because I'm learning how that shaped me into this. I love inspiring and motivating people. To me, that is the most fulfilled like word somebody can tell me I would feel so much fulfillment from it is when I get girls saying that like, oh, you're my biggest motivation and my biggest inspiration. I love that and that is what makes me be so vulnerable and so open. So, being able to be that, I'm like, everything happens for a reason.
Can I make 2 comments on that?
Yeah.
Number one, when you say it's made you the person that you are, I would reframe that just a little bit and say it's making you the person that you are.
Yes.
Because you are still evolving. And that's, again, one of those other things that we really love about you is that you continuously evolve. I've seen so much growth in you over the past, couple years. So I don't think there's a limit to how much you can grow. And Jamie and I talk about this, the best leaders are lifetime learners, and that means learning for your entire life. And so I think it's making you who you are, but more importantly, it's making you who you want to be, and convincing you that you're enough. You're not the only one who struggles with that. And I know you know
sure.
that. I know that, some people very close with us struggle with that as well. So the other piece, we struggle with that. That I don't know why I'm excluding myself from it, because I definitely struggle with that. And looking for external validation, why can't my internal validation be enough for me? And that's a struggle.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, looking for validation like from other people
Yes.
instead of within you. Yeah.
Right.
The second piece, and I think you and I have had not this debate, but this difference maybe of perspective. And that is when you say everything happens for a reason, and I know a lot of people feel that way. I don't. I feel that you get the chance to choose the reason why things happen. Life is, my belief, life is a series of random things. Stuff happens. Every day you get the choice to be able to say, not why did that happen, but what am I going to do with it because it happened? And that gives you the power over that narrative. If you are one of those people, and again, I'm not faulting it, it's just my personal belief. I don't want to think that things are happening to me, because then I'm just a victim. I'm a kite in the wind where things are buffeting me, and I'm just going to do whatever I can with it. And it might be good and it might be bad, but it's just happening to me. Versus when you get to apply reason to the things that happen, that puts you in charge of your own narrative. That's a hard thing to do, though. That's a hard thing to kind of flip the script on how you're going to view those things.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That is one of the things that I tell my clients a lot. I'm like, look, you can be unhappy with where you are. It's okay. It is okay to not be happy with where you are in life. But then now, what are you going to do about it? That is where things change. Are you just going to, I was talking with a client, she's like, I'm really struggling to send you photos because I don't want to see them. And I said, look, I completely understand that, but let's use that as a motivation, mindset, right? So it's like, use that as a way to be like, this is my starting point, but it's not my ending. It's not where my journey will end. This is just the beginning of your journey. And then thinking in the future, right? Remember when in the athlete summit, I said long-term gratification. Like I learned that with bodybuilding because I want everything so quick. Like I want and I still do, obviously.
We all do.
We all do,
but bodybuilding taught me to appreciate the things that take longer is the things that are going to really get you to where you want to be, because you can't find real success in the short term. Like that just doesn't exist. Rome was not built in a day, and I live by that. I really do.
I want you to bookmark that in your own mind, because we're going to talk later. Okay? and you know why. Okay.
Yeah, so. But I have been struggling lately with my hormones, and I mean it's probably why I've been so anxious lately.
It's all good. You're loved, and that's all you need to know.
Well, and I want to go back to, because I feel like I want to segue into like, how did you find bodybuilding? Because you told us a little bit about the education and you did some social work, all of these things, but kind of rewind for us a little bit. Tell us how did bodybuilding come into the picture?
So I came to the US 2013. I called my dad crying, and I was like, Dad, I want to go back to Brazil. I don't know if I want to be here, because I started to realize that I was building my whole adult life there. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that away from my parents and away from my family. So I said, I want to go back to Brazil and spend some time and figure that out before I, start creating a path that I can't take back, And so my dad came here, picked me up. We went to Brazil. I spent 6 months partying, going crazy. I started working out. And then my grandpa was a bodybuilder in the 50s. And so I grew up like seeing bodybuilding. But for me, bodybuilding was always normal. Not only was he a bodybuilder, but he was like a really good one. Like he has a lot of trophies, and his twin brother also was a bodybuilder. And then his oldest brother actually won Strongest Man in the World in Russia I would say in the 40s or 50s. There's a monument for him still there.
Oh, wow.
So
That's cool.
my family is like, I was bred to be a bodybuilder. I'm pretty sure, just look at my calves. So I got my calves from my grandpa. When people are like, how do you grow your calves? I'm like, I'm just my grandpa's granddaughter.
There's no calf work going on in the gym.
Yeah. So then I started going to this gym where my grandpa was working out too. And there were bodybuilders there. And I was like, I want to try. And so I became friends with people and did my first show in Brazil, 2015. I don't remember if it was 19 or 20. I have to do the math. I'm really...
We can go with 19 or 20. We don't have to. Nobody's fact checking
So it was around that time, and yeah, it was a disaster. I mean, bodybuilding that time was pretty, in comparison with today, it was very dumb. Like not dumb, but just the knowledge that we have today compared to the knowledge we had yesterday, and the applications of it was just crazy. Like I struggled a lot. Like it was suffering. It was plain suffering.
It was extreme.
Yes, like chicken all day. That's all I ate, chicken.
Was it boiled chicken?
No, it was not. It was actually shredded. I was living with my parents, so my mom helped me to meal prep, and we had like these buckets. We would go every Sunday. We would just put a ton of no, it wasn't shredded chicken. It was ground chicken. We would just put a ton of ground chicken in this bucket and then mix it with something. And then we would separate it into little bags. And that's how I was like, it was disgusting. And that's all I ate. Like I didn't eat carbs for probably like 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
Well, that'll calm you down.
Not even because my coach from that time put me on a ton of stuff. I didn't know what I was taking. So I'm pretty sure actually that's how I developed hypothyroidism, was because I was taking T3 and I had no idea what that was. I don't even remember the dose I was taking. So God knows. And I remember I was sleeping like 3 hours a night and I was never tired. Mm-hmm. So it must have been high. So then after that, I've always had a hard time losing body fat. And then that's when, I went to and started working with you and started working with Joanna. And then she was finally able to fix my thyroid. But I am pretty sure that it was from that time my mom and my grandma have like a lazy thyroid. So I know there's some genetical factors, but to the point where like my T4 would not translate it to T3. Yeah, my TSH has always been good. So every time I would go to like a normal doctor, they would be like, "Oh, you're fine." And I've never been overweight, but I just didn't feel like in prep I should be lean and shredded. But to a doctor, I looked athletic. They don't understand. So so I'm pretty sure that I still have some side effects from that time.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I do, and of course, I competed back in a time where that that was even similar here. It wasn't just in Brazil. I mean, a lot of times, and I've talked about that actually on another podcast where I did, initially have a coach way back in the day, same kind of idea, and I think we had those genetic switches and triggers, and sometimes something extreme like that can flip a switch, and then all of a sudden, maybe had you not done that, you would have had maybe a little bit of a lazy thyroid, but not full on hypothyroidism. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, now you've got it controlled. Yes. You're in a great place. Everything's working really well. So that's the good thing. And as a coach now, you get to help people make sure they don't get into a situation like that.
I mean, every time that somebody says, oh yeah, I'm taking T3. I'm like, don't do that. don't do that. It's not worth it. I promise you,
Right.
especially if you're an amateur and you don't even know. Like if you're doing.
And we're not talking about if you need it for medical
Yeah,
purposes.
no. Like
Yes.
if your coach is just prescribing you, right? Which is
Well,
so wrong.
the first question that should follow, I'm taking T3, is why?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Why
exactly.
are you taking it?
Yeah.
And from there, then, okay, I'm taking it for hypothyroidism. Oh, really? And
Okay,
are you
yeah.
prescribed that, or are you self-medicating,
Yeah.
whatever? And then it sparks the conversation and the questions, because there's a lot of questions that
Yeah,
that
did you
attach
do
to that.
blood work?
Yeah,
Like, are
there
you
there
are
go.
you on top
Yep.
of your blood work? Because some coaches would just tell them to take it, they don't even know
Right.
their
There's
levels.
no
So what
baseline.
if they're hyper? Like you're gonna make them go through a disaster. Like I have one client that almost died from her previous coach that gave her 50 micrograms of T3. Like it's crazy. I have hypothyroidism. I take 15. So I mean, I don't understand this concept, but at that time I was so like follow everything blindly because it was my first time. I didn't know what I was doing.
But that's the concept is right. Is that the stage is the end all be all, and that's not true. No show is worth your health, and
No.
that's one of the reasons why
Absolutely.
as we talked about this
Absolutely.
weekend, right? Our philosophy is health first.
Health first.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that really starts with a baseline, right? A baseline of labs. And that's, what we tell our
And
athletes.
a good off season.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I went straight into prep, and that was another mistake. Like you need an off season for sure.
So it was a disaster from that perspective, but you still decided
love
you
with
wanted
it.
to continue?
Yeah, so it took me 2 years to go back into my normal self. I was completely broken. And the worst part is, so when I did my reverse, like there was no reverse, right? So when I finished my last show, my coach said, take the whole week off. Don't train, eat whatever you want. I mean, I gained probably 20 pounds that week. And I was so depressed. I was embarrassed to go to the gym because I was lean a week ago. And then now I was feeling disgusting. I was disgusted with myself. And I started, what did I do? I started starving myself, doing excessive amounts of cardio to try to go back. But it was just crashing. All of my hormones were just on the ground because he also told me to stop taking everything all at once. So it took me 2 years to feel good again with my body. I had to work not only on my mindset, but my relationship with food. And then I also found out, learning more about nutrition. Like I said, I'm going to apply this knowledge to myself. Like I'm not going to have a coach. I just want to learn and fix myself. So I found out I had a gluten intolerance that time. I read a book called Wheat Belly. I was reading so many books about everything. And so I found out I have gluten intolerance. And, but anyway, for 5 years, I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to go back into bodybuilding. That is toxic. It ruined me. But then I had a calling in 2020. I was in the US. I already had graduated college too. So I was at a place where I could do it. And I was still living paycheck to paycheck. At that time, I was married to somebody in the military. So, and then I did my first NPC show as bikini. And obviously 100% natural. I didn't know I had hypothyroidism then. I just said that to my coach of the time, I want to do a very healthy prep as much as possible, right, within bodybuilding. And I want to be natural. I have enough muscle for a bikini anyway, but I could not get lean. So I did that show, and then I realized something was wrong with me. And then I found out that I had hypothyroidism. I mean, I had no thyroid, no testosterone, nothing. So obviously that is, why I wasn't able to thrive. And my first show, NPC, out of 21 girls, I placed 18th. So that was a slap on the face because my first show, I got second. And then my second show, I got first. And my third show, I got third. So I've always been up there. And then to wait 5 years and place 18th, I was so disappointed. But it it actually got me a fire. I was I want to keep going. And it was so funny because that's when wellness first came into the US, was 2020. And one of my feedbacks was, you should do wellness. And I was like, I don't want to do wellness because I'm from Brazil and I know what these girls do there. I'm not doing that. There's no way.
Yeah.
Like, because when I did my first show in Brazil in 2015, they already had wellness. And I had some, friends that used to talk like this. And I was like, I'm not going to do that with myself. So I was scared of the wellness division because I was seeing the extreme in Brazil,
And so we're talking about the extreme in the type of
PEDs
PEDs,
and
performance
everything,
enhancing types of things that they were
I
utilizing.
mean, everything.
Yeah.
Everything is so Brazil. I mean, they do everything so extreme there, and it's crazy. Like you guys said there, and I say that all the time. It's just a trophy. It's not worth your health.
Right.
It's not worth it because you're gonna go on stage, feel good, get that trophy, and then you're gonna come out of the stage, and then what? You know what I mean? Like, what if you don't like bodybuilding?
Right.
Then you have to live with your voice like that for the rest of your life. And there are things that are not reversible.
Right.
So, I mean, I learned the hard way too with my hypothyroidism. If that was what triggered me, I have to live with that for the rest of my life. So, and it could have been worse, but thankfully it wasn't.
Yeah.
Thankfully now I can get that under control, but who knows what could have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate how open you are and that you're sharing all of this, because I do think that, this people, and I know you're very much about this because we know there's misinformation out there.
So much.
There's lack in some cases of information. So like being more open and about these kinds of things, and I actually, it was interesting before we came here, somebody had put a question that they wanted us to talk more about, that side of the bodybuilding world. So
a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but I think it's, I mean, I understand, there's a lot of taboo, but it's definitely something that we need to kind of get the right information. It's hard to find the right information, to find the right guidance. Like, how do you know? And being in that position where I didn't know what I was doing. It's scary for new girls that are coming in. They have a coach. They're just going to give them everything they're going to do. They don't know what they're doing. And then it's like, how else do they know that this can cause, the future consequences? And these girls are so young.
Right.
I mean, so young.
And that's right. It's as this weekend we were talking a lot about activities of daily living and how those add up from a training perspective. That if you're carrying something on one side of your body, it builds an imbalance, and it's not going to show up day one. It's not going to show up day 10. But it's going to show up the more and more you do it. And that's the same thing with PEDs. Is that okay? PEDs in a short run that probably no. I mean, anything you can take and abuse them and affect yourself permanently. Yes. And we've seen those. Mm-hmm. But even doing them, what you don't know is how those things are going to manifest over time. And so it's all on a time scale. If you want to just think about an X and a Y graph, it's okay. Everything's fine up until you get to a certain point, and then at that certain point, then things start to happen. And at that point, it may be irreversible, and that's the thing. That, like voice changes and things of that nature.
Face and receding hairline.
Yep.
Yeah. So when I switched to wellness, I reached out to you and I thought, I was
going to say, tell how you decided this.
Well, actually, what I think we should do is this. So, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but we are over time on this episode. Mm-hmm. And
there's so much we still want to get to.
There's so much more. And I know part of something you want to talk about is the old bodybuilding mindset versus the more modernized bodybuilding mindset. And mm-hmm. I want to get into that. I also want us to get into why you chose wellness and how that journey went, and also talk about what the future is. So let's do that in a second episode.
Because good.
that there's a lot of stuff here. So we're going to do a checkout word, but before we do a checkout word, do you want to do a checkout word or tell people how to contact you first? You're going to do them both.
Do whatever you want.
I can say my checkout word is, can it be the same? No, it has to be a different word.
It could be whatever you want it to be.
It's your choice.
Excitement. I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited for I mean, I'm scared a little bit for the season, but most of all, I'm excited to see what happens.
Awesome. And then tell people how they can connect with you.
I am very open on Instagram. Very, very
But what is your
there.
Instagram?
My Instagram is Thais, THAIS.wellness.
Okay. And you can also connect with Thais through the FitBody Fusion
Yes,
website
and we can do a
select her as a coach
consultation.
and get a consultation with her to see if she's the right fit.
Right. And hold on. So Thais is a IFBB Wellness Pro. We didn't talk about this in the beginning, a coach, and you coach which divisions?
I coach fit model, bikini, and wellness.
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else you want to cover before we sign off for this
No,
episode?
this was a great episode,
Yeah.
and I really, really enjoyed the conversation. I learned even more about you, which is so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for the next episode where we continue to delve deep. So everybody look out for that one.
And remember to like, comment, subscribe, leave your reviews. Tune in for part 2 of the Thais show. And we'll get a little bit deeper into some of those topics that we talked about. And until then, remember the 3 B's.
Be good to yourself.
Be good to each other and
be
be
safe.
safe. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to FitBody Lifestyle. We hope today's episode has left you feeling motivated and equipped to tackle your fitness goals, business challenges, and the daily dance of life. Remember to value progress over perfection. Life's tough enough alone. Find the chosen family around you to help you along the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FitBody Fusion.